the reason we're walking today to the Catholic Diocese is this was a Catholic school. So this church was run by the Catholic Church, as were the majority of the boarding schools in the United States. And so the Catholic Church has done nothing to apologize or to help this take place. So what we're wanting is to bring awareness to this and to have some national push to start searching the grounds of all of these residential schools and getting these babies home. So my grandson.
Again, we are just getting started today. We are going to walk to honor the 215 children that were found in an unmarked grave, in an unmarked mass grave at Kamploos Boarding School in Canada. This is not an isolated incident. This is not an issue specific to Canada. There were 332 residential boarding schools in the United States with thousands of our children in unmarked graves right now. So we are walking to bring awareness to that, walking to bring awareness to the fact that these are our elders that were stolen. These were our knowledge keepers, future medicine people, our grandmas, our grandpas, first language speakers. They were taken from our families. Every Indigenous person here, if you have a relative who's a survivor of a residential boarding school, raise your hand. So that's pretty much all of the Indigenous people. We have our aunties, we have our uncles, our grandmas and grandpas all experienced this. In the late 1920s, 83% of all school-aged Indigenous children had been at some point attended a residential boarding school. So this has impacted our communities in an irreversible way, and it still is impacting our communities today. This isn't a long-term or a long time ago issue. This is still happening. Our grandmas and our grandpas and our aunties and uncles are alive. We have survivors of boarding schools living here in our community now. Our children were horrifically abused at these schools, whether it was physical, emotional, they were starved, or sexually assaulted on a very regular basis, and it was a norm in all of the residential schools. The reason today that we're walking to the Catholic Diocese is because they ran the majority of the residential schools in the United States, and Kamploos was a Catholic Church-run school. So they need to be accountable for what they've done to our people. They need to be accountable for the fact that they have still not apologized. They haven't even acknowledged that this took place. So we're going to walk in silence, and if you believe this way, if you would like to pray while walking for these children, other than that, we're just going to try to walk in silence. I understand there's little ones here. Some of these little ones here, like my grandma's 3, at this age, is it me, is it you? I don't know. It's probably me. My grandson is 3. He's the one throwing a fit over here in the corner. He is that's the same age as the youngest child found in that mass grave. So if your babies can't be quiet, that's okay, they don't have to be. So we're going to walk to honor the memory of these children and what our communities have lost. We're then going to put down the shoes at the Catholic Diocese to represent all of the children that were taken. And then we're also going to leave a sign for the priests that say they can dispose of the shoes the same way they disposed of our children. But we're going to block the entrance to their building today. They don't have the big staircases that other communities have, so we're just going to put them all up in their walkway. So we have Polly here. She's going to say a quick blessing for us.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm really honored that I'm able to do this today. This is not something I normally do, so it might sound awkward to some of you who are used to people who give blessings. So I just, and I'm going to be emotional. I just want us to take this moment to start focusing our minds and hearts on what we're here to do today as a community. I'm here to support my sister. I'm here to think about all the children in Colorado. I'm here to think about the children that are still in caged places. And thinking about how we honor our Indigenous knowledge and hearts and spirits. And so we all have different ways of praying, and we all have different beings that we think of as creator. I'm going to use the word creator. You might have a god or a goddess, and you might have just the universe or the elements, other human beings as your source of energy and community. So I'm going to ask the Creator bless us today, make us all safe, keep our hearts and minds and bodies healthy as we go through this experience together, that it takes us to a better place, and that we feel that we have hope for our future, and that we can reconcile our past, and that our families can be healed through the things that we're doing right here together today, and that when we walk away from this, that we are grateful for the lives that we carry, for this beautiful sun-filled day, and the nourishing rain that has blessed our lives, cleaned our streets the last few weeks. It was probably a headache for all of us, but we want to remember how we're going to be grateful for the heat that we're feeling today, and whatever we go on to do with our families and friends, that we have a calm heart when we leave this place. And you can say amen or whatever works for you in the end. No, I'd come back to an alcoholic home. Mother, where did you go when they took me away? Mother, where did you go when they took me away? I don't recognize you anymore. The scars of life are deeper than before.
My name is Nikaylee Reed. I'm Hopi, Lakota, Sioux, and Tewa. I'm just going to share what I posted on Instagram. I can't really come up with anything at the back of my head. Some of you are missing the entire point. Do you realize that the reason Indigenous people are alive today is because our grandparents survived the boarding school era? They don't say much, but we don't have to know any more than we do to understand their trauma. Historical trauma is often misconstrued by the idea that we are triggered by foretellings of the past. That is not even remotely what it means. It means on a genetic level, the trauma that our grandparents endured is embedded in our DNA, passed down intergenerationally. This shows up in several ways ranging from alcoholism to substance abuse to severe mental health disorders, such as borderline personality disorder and schizophrenia. The boarding school era is a trauma that our people, our children, our great-grandchildren will never forget, even if we wanted to. All I know is the story of my grandma Thelma, who was taken in the dead of night by these strangers. She was just 3 years old. Her only memory was sitting on a train, looking down at her little legs and feeling the distance grow more and more between herself and her mother. All I know is my grandma Marie's story, who was away at boarding school until she was a teenager. She returned to her home in Okayawinga, New Mexico, only to discover that her entire family was gone. She had to make her way to Denver, Colorado by train, all by herself, where they had us relocated. That is why we are in Denver today. All I know is that my grandpa is an amazing pianist and can't even look at a piano without the memories of the nuns beating him for missing a key. All I know is that substance abuse has claimed several of my relatives' lives in the last decade. All I know is that this void that I have to learn to fill in healthier ways, though it will always remain a bottomless pit. A loss of language, a loss of land, a loss of people is something you remember every waking moment of every day. But we also remember the resilience, and we remember it is the sole reason we are alive today, to dance and sing and celebrate and tell their stories and learn our languages and be proud of who we are without suffering the same consequences for simply being Indigenous.
My mother was 8 years old when a teacher taped her hair to the back of a chair and said, "Dirty little Indian girls don't need beautiful black hair." That is who I come from. That is my people, that is my mother, that is my grandmother. So much was lost. The stories my mother tells of the things that my grandmother and her went through in Catholic school haunts me, and I wasn't even there. I got a poem published in the ICE colony last year, and I would like to share it with you because I wrote it about after the first time my mother told me about what happened to my grandparents. I am a child of Maria, a restless spirit pulled between peace and war. I carry old life to rebirth. To the young I brought rain and nectar when destiny cursed disease at the hands of dishonorable men. My descendants were the last to surrender. Their courage and bravery and strength is gifted, from child to warrior to healer. We are born again from the earth, children of both dirt and sky. We speak the language of the coyote and ride the stallion over the dragoon. The conquerors cannot eradicate us without destroying themselves. From the time of great sorrow, slowly we build. Our wounds are deep, but our memory is the grande. For we were here when there was everything, and we will be here when there is nothing.
My name is Kamploos Lopez. It's difficult to find the words. I remember one of my cousins, Pachomio, who was one of the main people who helped bring me into singing. He was asking me how I was doing in high school. Like, oh, I'm doing pretty well, this, that. And he goes, you know, I never went to high school. I went to Sherman Indian School. You know. And this is not someone that's that much older than me. You know, these stories are not that old. And so I'm going to offer this song that I remember singing with my cousin and family members. And this song is talking about the baby bear, the small ones, the cubs. And so I'll offer this for everyone. I want to thank everyone for allowing me to offer this and for letting me be here. I want to ask that song is here for the spirits, that we don't post that on social media or share that. But I also want to think about all the songs that weren't sung because of all those that were taken away. I want to think about all the legacies that, you know, we can't speak of. The stories, the histories, the worlds that are missing now, and honor that. So I'm honored to share this with you all here today, and I'm very, you know, I like to sing because sometimes words don't do the justice. Thank you.
People were talking, I wanted to think about what my life has been like since the boarding schools, and my mom and her whole, all her siblings and her cousins from her mom's side were all raised in a missionizing school. And the effect that that's had, they lost their mother, she died in childbirth, and that's why they went. But and it was a way to take care of them. We went through like good times and bad. I go to the Ganado Mission School reunion all the time with her. And, the way that Christianity, because their parents were raised in a missionized school, affected how all of them grew up, especially the women, not really knowing, I feel like, how to be whole people, because they weren't really mothered. And I'm thinking right now, especially about some of my family members, because it's June and Pride Month, and we're coming up on the 2nd anniversary of the death of one of our really special young men, because he was gay, and our family was so homophobic and anti-gay that he didn't tell anyone, so he got AIDS and died in the worst way, you know, that we all imagine AIDS takes your body. His body was taken that way. So I'm thinking about Layson right now, and that if our family would have been accepting of him, maybe we wouldn't have had that life and that death. And I have another cousin who's my age. When she was at a boarding school in Phoenix, it was another missionizing school, and she was gay. And there was another girl that was gay in her dorm. and the school took the doors off of their rooms so they wouldn't, fool around, I guess. And she's tried to kill herself several times. She's an alcoholic, and she's been in jail, and her family rejected her. And I think I'm gonna let the trucks go by here. Lots of traffic. So one of the things that my mom just told me a couple years ago, she was about 80 years old, and she was saying that she was really proud of how successful I am. And she said, this goes back to that comment about Herod, who's a good person and he deserves to have a good life. And I told my mom, you're a savage. You'll never be successful. When she's 80 years old, this is what she's telling me. She never felt like she deserved success because she was a savage. And that she's glad I overcame that. Of course, my mother never told me I was a savage, right? That was not part of part of me. But to imagine my mom lived her life this way her whole life, it was really heartbreaking. But I also learned how strong she was to live through that whole time, thinking that about herself. They've been raising strong children and amazing grandchildren, right? So what I try to do is with the kids when I go home to the reservation of my family, I don't see them very often, but I just try and tell them they're precious. And no matter what they've gone through in their life, and no matter the bad decisions their parents have made, or that they might make choices that make their life harder, like they're precious. And I think that's what we have to tell our children, is that you are a precious person. For our family, for our knowledge and life ways, all the things that they have the opportunity to learn, even if it's not the right way. Native people know what I'm saying. And so, part of me just wants to also remember, and that was the bigger part, I just went on and on, sorry, that, as we're thinking about people and our children, that we embrace our queer family members as strong as we can, because I do feel like the Christianity that we've been indoctrinated into makes their lives harder too.